Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Nicolette Elzie. I am an author of fantasy romance books. My debut series was The O Zero Curse, and it's a three book. It's complete. The first book is A Curse of Tooth and Claw, and it follows Kiki, who is a demon slayer, and her best friend is abducted by demons, and she goes into what is known as the Cicatrix. It's this expansive darkness, and she goes and she follows her best friend to save her, and what she finds in there is not at all what she was expecting. We have fated mates, we have forced proximity, um, just a lot of the juicy tropes, enemies to lovers. So it's also multi-POV, so we do follow four couples over the course of the three novels.
I always love following different couples as well. You get to see more of their perspectives as well.
Yes, it was definitely, I felt like it was one of those stories that it just begged for so many for everyone. Everyone wanted a voice, everyone was vying for attention. So trying to balance that was very tough for me, especially for it being my debut series. I feel like I learned a lot through that though. So I'm happy with how the series turned out and excited for what I'm working on next.
What inspired your debut series?
So I have very vivid dreams and slash nightmares, but this one in particular was more of like a very just highly vivid dream. Um, and I basically so also with my dreams, sometimes I dream I'm myself, and other times I'm sort of an observer watching as things happen. But in this, and the way I know if it's me or if I'm just the observer, or sometimes I'll be the embodiment of like a person, but I'm not that person. The way I know that it's not me is if I'm running in the dream and I'm not out of breath.
That's a good way to tell.
That's how I know for a fact. I'm like, no, that ain't me. So, but for this particular dream, it was me, my best friend from college, who, she's basically my soul sister. We've known each other since college. She is the godmother to both my children. So we're really, really close. And I'm an only child, so she's the closest thing I have to a sister. Um, and we're standing on this wall in the dream, and we're looking out over this forest. It's super dark. It's like darkness is swirling, misting towards us, and I get the sense that I should be scared. So, like, I'm afraid, like, what's coming out of this darkness? And my best friend, she turns to me and she says, just stay behind me. I'll protect you. Don't do anything. And I'm like, okay. Except, of course, me being me, I'm not very smart. So when the demons come out, I freak out, I freeze, and I get abducted. And that then, like, the dream ends because then I was really scared. And that is basically the start, and that's literally how the novel, how book one opens, is that. So that scene.
It's amazing that sometimes you get actual scenes that inspire you to start writing. Like, yes, this is what I'm actually going to write about. And thank you for giving me
Yeah.
a scene already.
Yes, exactly. I was like, oh, this like it felt like a movie, but of course I was in the movie and I was just terrified. So Kiki is very much um has a lot of like basis on my best friend. They're both, fierce protectors, super loyal to their friends, would do anything for them. Um, and I just admire, my best friend so much. So it's kind of like this love story to her and just this ode to her and, how much I adore her. Um, and yeah, and so that's how Kiki was born. She kind of blossomed from that, basis. And then she became her own person. But yeah, she does have a root in a real life person.
It's always easier to write if you have someone that you're sort of drawing inspiration from and making going as a foundation as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
What drew you to writing in the first place?
What was that?
What drew you to writing in the first place?
I think what drew me to writing was feeling like I wasn't seeing the whole story. I had when I was about between like ages 8 to 10, 11, I got really into Arthurian legend, and I was super, super fascinated by the Morgan Le Fay character. And in all depictions of her, she is, she's the villain. She's the dark sorceress who, comes in to mess up all their plans. And it just felt so one-sided. And I really I couldn't help but think, even at that age, like, well, what did you do to her? Like
What made you what happened to her that you that
that
you
that
think
she
like that?
became this way. Because my thought is there's no way she could be that powerful and bother with
Yeah.
this unless she had a reason. And my thought is she must have a really good reason. Y'all must have done something to her, so you probably deserve it. So I was 11. We were my family is military. My dad served in the Air Force. So at the time we were moving from uh Washington State to Washington D.C. We're going across country, and all I had was myself and like a little notebook. And of course, like the bag we packed, but everything else had been packed up and sent off. Um, and I was bored. We were driving in the car for a really long time, and I was like, I'm gonna write her story. So my very first like attempt at a full-length novel was essentially Morgan Le Fay's origin story. And I dropped it all the way back to, her being a kid and what would that have been like. And I never finished that story, but I think that is what sort of drew me to writing in a general sense. I'd always loved reading as well, and I'd written short stories, but that was my first attempt at a full novel. And I wouldn't write a full novel again until about 2014, after my son was born.
Wow. It's always that what if question that sort of sparks you to draw and start writing. And it's
Absolutely.
amazing it happened so when you were so young as well.
Yes, yes. That's I think the best. Those are the best stories is what if. Um, and so like even with Kiki's story, it was what if a girl's best friend is kidnapped? What would she do?
Mm.
And for her, it was, you know, burn the world to find her. That's not everyone's response.
A very
Uh,
good best friend's response,
it's a
though.
very good best friend. That's your ride or die best friend. That's yeah. And so but I do. My favorites are what ifs. The current work in progress that I have right now, working title is Seraphim and Serpents. The what if was what if a princess who is follows her essentially her parents, her father or her brothers, whoever rules like with an iron fist is tyrannical. And what if she were highly strategic? What if she were highly educated, as I would imagine her to be, having grown up in so much privilege? I'm like, so what if she were all these things, but she's constantly overlooked for the mere and, horrible fact, how dare she for being born a woman? What if she were fed up with always being overlooked, with always dealing with seeing all the injustices that were going on to the people? What if she wrote a letter to her enemy, like the enemy of their kingdom? And what if she offered herself as the prize in exchange for essentially tearing down her family's regime? And that's how the story was born. So it's really that from that what if.
But it comes about and all the
Mhm.
work goes into answer
And
that
all
question.
the work it goes into, but that's really the spark for any idea that I work with is what if?
Perfect questions to ask.
Yeah.
So you said your debut series is a multiple perspective series. How did you choose which characters to center the story around and tell from those points of view?
I think the smart answer would be that I had everything planned and plotted and knew exactly who was going to speak when they were going to speak. The honest answer is that the characters really took over the story. So there were actually POVs that I had to push out of the story because I was like, there's too many of you right now. You zip it. And I took out POVs because I was like, we're already working with so many. You cannot speak up right now. You don't get your own chapter. And so that's the honest answer. It was very much just I knew the plot of the story because I did map out the plot. Um, but as far as who we'd be following at what time, they really dictated that.
And so I find it so interesting to see if it's the characters that guide you, and once you're in the writing zone, that's and the story's coming out, who that's how the story is guided by, or if it's like, no, no, I've got a plot, I've got an outline, I know how everything, and you guys are not switching it from my outline.
I've I try to stick to the outline. So in order every story I start, I have to write into the story. So I'll start with, sometimes a scene will come to me where so I'll just try writing in there. With Seraphim and Serpents, I had to really think about like how can we come into the story? And I don't know if that's where the book will start, but essentially I just wanted to see her in her life as is before we get to this, kind of inciting incident, right? Um, so yeah, and but about I would say 10 to 20,000 words, which I think is maybe 5 to 10 chapters. I'm not really sure. Um, that's when I start to be like, okay, I'm stuck because now I feel like I could play around all day, but not get anywhere plot wise. So then I have to outline. And then usually those first 10 to 20,000 words, they're either cut or they're just, back writing for me to reference for later, or they can help inspire something else later on, or they can be tweaked and reused. Um, but yeah, those first 10 to 20,000 words are really just me figuring things out and learning who the characters are. Um, Eliminating characters because I'm like, "Oh, you serve no purpose. Like you're boring." And get rid of that person. Yeah. So, but yeah, I try to stick to that outline once I've written into it and then I've outlined it, but I've had to redo my outline so many times because somebody has inevitably decided to do something that was not part of the plan, and then I have to work with.
Maybe it made the story a bit more interesting, but it's sort of like, damn it.
Yes, so Mari was one of those characters. When I initially came up with him, it was just a very rough sketch. I knew Erasmo needed an enforcer. My ideal was going to be somebody that was very close to him, ideally someone who grew up with him. So I was like, oh, a cousin would make the most sense. Somebody who also knew the effects of the curse, who would know that struggle. Um, but I didn't know that he was going to be so unhinged. I had no clue. So I just had these very vague parameters. So when he showed up on the page, he comes onto the scene and he's, roughing someone up. He has blood on his knuckles, and Erasmo catches him licking at it. And Erasmo's like, you're sick. You are unhinged. And Mara's just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I am what I am. And I was like, "Oh, he is so interesting. He says what he says and he says it with his whole chest. Like I could, this character is funny." So yeah, so he wasn't planned. I expected him to just kind of be like a very, a minor side character, like a supporting actor. Um, but then he jumped onto the scene and I was like, "Oh, what do I
Main
do with you?"
main character energy.
Main character energy. He's so unhinged. So, yeah.
What's your approach to world and character building? Do you explore the world as you go, or do you have you already sort of written down what you expect the world and the characters to be like?
So in the first 10 to 20,000 words is where a lot of exploration is going on, both with the characters and with the world. But inevitably I run into tons of roadblocks during that time because since I don't know the world, I also don't know the characters. It's a lot of planning and writing out and kind of sketching out who these people might be, asking, weird questions like, oh, if they had a favorite movie, what would it be? Stuff like that to try to get into their head. What's their favorite food? Like, and because of that, then that helps me start building out the world because I'm like, okay, well, if they like if they're into, for us in our day would be like, action adventure movies. What would that look like in this context, in this world? Oh, maybe they like underground fight rings. Maybe, there's like some like maybe there's bullfighting or something, that's like illicit, that's, not really on the up and up. Maybe that's what they're into. someone who likes romance. Maybe there's books that they can read or, something like that. Um, and so that helps me start building out the world is the character. So it's kind of this two-pronged thing. Um, but then I also have to go into even more like depth for the world. I start to think about the origin story. How did this world come to be? If there's magic, are there rules to the magic? What are the limitations? And that is kind of, I'll admit that is a struggle I have because I don't like limiting my magic. Um,
It makes it get into blocks. It becomes really
exactly,
hard to try to not use it or use it.
exactly, exactly. So I hate having to limit it, but I know that it makes it feel more realistic. It also makes the payoff feel so much better when the character can tap into their full potential. Um, but yeah, those are some of the questions I ask. Religion, is there a religion? Who follows it? Who doesn't? How do people feel about that? Is it a big deal or is it not? Is it, polytheistic, monotheistic? I ask a lot of questions during the world building phase.
Sort of need to know your world and your characters before you really start writing too.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Did you have a favorite moment in the series to write?
Hmm. I think I had a lot of favorite moments. As a reader, my favorite moments are always going to be they finally kissed. Like,
Yeah.
and that is true for me as a writer. That's that moment when they finally, all the tension culminates and they just finally kiss. I'm like, shut up and kiss already. When that happens, those are my favorite moments. Um, I think also, without spoiling anything for anyone who's listening, one of my favorite moments was in book 3 with Yari's character. I think her the culmination of her character growth was very satisfying for me, as someone who knows what it's like to be underestimated, to be seen as weak just because maybe physically I'm not. I'm not I don't run marathons. I'm not an outdoors girl, very much an indoor girl. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but a lot of times people see physical strength and activity as being, equated to strength and courage of character. And but with her character, I felt like she really grew into herself and she really was able to tap into her own inner strength, into her resilience. And I know that really deeply, having suffered from chronic pain and mental illness. So seeing her like blossom, if I had to
Mm.
pick any, just one, it would be that moment when she fully comes into herself.
I think that will connect with a lot of people as well, because a lot of people are sort of second guessed as well. So it's always really
Yeah,
good to see that representation in a character.
yeah.
Which of the characters do you relate to the most and why?
Well, I already
You
I've
sort of
absolutely outed myself. I have outed myself 100%. It's Yari. She she is me is her. She is she's the one who got pulled by the demon and Kiki's, had to rescue her. If that was the dream. That
Yeah.
was that was the dream, the fever dream where my best friend is like, "Stay behind me. Don't do anything. Just be there." And I'm like, "Okay."
I'll do
Like,
that.
"Oh, no, help me." Like, so definitely relate to Yari the most.
How has writing and publishing books changed the way you see yourself, if it has?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. It's helped me grow as a person. I feel like I've come more fully into myself, like being writing and sharing it with others and learning to be okay. Because I definitely grew up as a very much of like a people person, like a people pleaser,
Mm,
and needing that validation that, oh, everyone likes me. Um, and that was from like a deep-seated like wound, an inner wound that I was working on and have been working through. Um, so writing and publishing I had to, it was kind of like this plunge into
Mm,
frozen water of really understanding that reading is subjective. Not everyone's going to like a book. There are plenty of bestsellers out there that people adore and in equal measure people despise, and they're the worst writers ever. And so plunging myself into that, um, it was it was refreshing because it was almost like I had to face the problem.
mm,
So I did actually return to therapy so I could really work through those issues and not let myself stand in the way of this dream of mine. And this has been my dream for at the very least since 11 years old.
mm,
But you know, even before that with all the little stories I would write as a kid. So I think ultimately I was standing in my own way. I needed to heal and to grow and to be ready. And when I made the decision to jump in, I knew that it wasn't going to be without any struggle, but I was willing to put the work in. And it's been very rewarding. I feel very happy and just super grateful for my life. I feel very blessed. Um, that's not to say that I don't have struggles, but I'm just happy.
You sort of have to open yourself up and be aware that, lots of people, some people won't like it as well, and being strong
Yeah.
enough. Like I'm proud. Still, my book is for those who actually need it as well.
Yeah. hmm Exactly. And it's tough. That's
Mm,
not to say that, you know, my feelings won't get hurt. I'm human.
yeah.
I don't hold it against people. Um, I actually just came off the Lovelit cruise. It was the inaugural Lovelit cruise, and someone had told me that they ordered my book, but they hadn't started it yet. And I was like, oh, well, I was like, I hope you enjoy it. But if you don't, that's okay because I'm not problematic. I'm like, it's totally fine. Like it truly is fine with me. Because I think for me, I'm a mood reader. So
Mm.
I I pick up books and there's times where I'm just like, this isn't really, you know, the vibe. I'm not feeling it. So I'll just DNF books. It has nothing to do with the quality of the book or if it's good or not. I just I don't know what I need until I happen across it. So I'll go from light and fluffy, contemporary, you know, cozy fantasy to dark fantasy, and it'll just be this mixture until I find the book that I need at that moment, and that'll be the read. And if I finish a book, it's always a 5 star because to for me to get through whatever barrier that I'm having to
It's a
finish,
five star.
it's a 5 star.
You got
So
me.
I'm like the worst reviewer on Goodreads because all of them are 5 stars. Because if I finish them, they're 5 stars. Um, and it's a me problem. I learned this a few years ago. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm the problem. I'm like, that's so liberating because the book isn't the problem. It's me. And I was like, okay, so I stopped feeling bad for putting a book down because it just wasn't for me at that time. And
I
I've picked
think
them
a lot of
and I've
I
loved
think a
them.
lot of people need to learn how to put the books down. If it's not doing it, just don't feel guilty about it. Just put it
Feel
down. It's not for you.
guilty. Yeah, exactly. And so because I'm that way, you know, I feel like a lot of us, if it's our reality, we think it's everyone else's reality. Though I recently learned that just because I see something some way, that doesn't mean that it's everyone else's reality. So that was kind of like this eye opener for me. Um, but because I see it that way, it doesn't bother me if someone's, you know, they're like, "Oh, I couldn't get through your book." Oh, okay. Oh, have you? And then I'll immediately be like, "Have you tried?" And I'll like name a few other ones. I'm like, maybe that'll do it for you. Like, it doesn't bother me. It just doesn't.
Are there any authors or books that inspired you in your writing?
Yes. Okay. So, um, I learned about her probably about a few years ago. Um, and I would say even just the relationship with her as an author was just inspiring. So Rebecca Kenny, she writes fantasy romance. She has a couple like interconnected standalones, and that's kind of how I entered into her writing was she had I think it's something the Fiend Prince, marrying the Fiend Prince. Anyways, um it's like the first in her one of her interconnected standalone series. And I was so taken with how she could put together the story and build out this full world in such a short, volume, and then continue it into these other books. So I reached out to her and just essentially was fangirling. And so I approached her initially as just as a reader. And then I was like, and I'm also a baby author. Any tips for me? And she was so kind. So I will always have love for Rebecca Kinney. Um, I just admire her a ton. And I just think that her approach to books has influenced me in just that she seems to really enjoy what she's writing, and if she's not enjoying it, she doesn't keep going. And I think that's
Mm.
a good place, That's a good learning lesson for me as well.
Don't keep trying to finish the book if you're not enjoying it. Or just
Yeah,
take
well, because
forever.
if I'm not enjoying it, then I would think that the reader's not going to enjoy it either.
Probably a good test to see if people will enjoy it.
Exactly.
What advice would you give to a writer working on their first book?
Hmm. Finish it. Even though I just said I'm not going to continue because if I'm not enjoying it, that's only if I'm not enjoying where the plot's going. That's
Yeah.
not to say that I enjoy the process the entire time. There are times that I have to push through. Um, I don't want to write, the goal is maybe 500 words that day. I don't want to write it. Um, but if I don't keep that cadence, then I probably won't ever finish the book. Um, so for an author entering into their first time, finish it and don't expect it to be great. Um, it's actually probably going to be pretty terrible, but you won't believe that. You won't think that, and that's okay. I didn't. When I wrote my first draft of my very first novel, I was convinced it was a bestseller, and I was so excited. I think first-time writers who finish their first novel, should celebrate that.
Mm.
Um, and they should tell everybody. I mean, be excited, but also recognize that it's just the first draft, and there's a lot of work to go into it. But embrace that. Embrace each milestone along the way because they all have learning lessons. And even though it might be discouraging, don't let that stop you from continuing to pursue it.
You
Because
need
I believe everybody has a story in them that is worth sharing. And so it's a tragedy if that story isn't shared.
just need to get all the words down on the page first.
Yeah,
Just finish it.
exactly. Just finish it.
What's your favorite writing snack or drink if you have one?
I think my favorite writing snack in a general sense, because it's my favorite snack, is popcorn.
Yeah,
I
best
love
best snack.
popcorn. Love it. And then as far as my writing drink, I'm boring. I have water all day. I literally here's my water bottle. It's right here within reach. I don't drink as much as I should, but here we are. Here's hoping.
It's there to encourage you, to try and
There
remind
to
you.
encourage me. Yes. Honestly, I should probably put some like sort of a sticker, maybe like a dagger being like, drink,
Drink me.
drink me now. Yeah.
Do you listen or play music while you write? And if so, what's your favorite type of music?
I do actually. So I have an Apple Music subscription and I like to go with, I think it's called, let me look it up real quick because it's called Gaming Monster Cat. And I had read somewhere years ago that the best music for focus was gaming music. Anything that is like on role-playing games, like any of that music was really good for focus because that was literally the design for the music was to help people focus on the game that they're playing. So I tried it out one time and I mean, I don't know if it was placebo effect or what, but I feel like it definitely helped me focus. And so now that's kind of just the go-to. I go to their playlist. They update it pretty much weekly, so there's always something fresh. But if I like anything in particular, I'll just save it to my own playlist. So that way I always have it. But having having the new songs come up plus having kind of the ones that are my like go-to, um, it just helps me get in the zone. It helps set, set the playing field.
You sort of need to have that in the background just to keep you focused on it. I'm like that with reading. I need to have something in the background while I'm reading because then I can
Yeah.
actually focus on the book.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
really
I don't know if you have this, I call it this strange gift slash curse where I have the ability to listen to all the conversations that are happening around me except the one I'm trying to have.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's true for, if I'm trying to focus on reading, I can't read what I'm focusing on because I can hear everybody else who's having a conversation, even in the other room. Suddenly I have supersonic hearing.
I'm like,
And
this
I'm
sounds
like,
interesting.
well, yeah, that too. I love tea. I love the tea.
You
And
need to
I'm
give
just
me the
like,
tea.
oh, I'm like, I'm always like, I didn't bring my teacup, but here, pour it for me.
Give it
Give
to
me the
me.
gossip. And I'm like, they don't want anyone listening to them. They're all the way over there. But I can't help it. I suddenly have supersonic, like, bat hearing when I'm trying to focus. So yeah, I like you, I need something blocking all of that out.
And my final question is, who has been the biggest supporter of your writing?
Definitely my husband.
Mhm.
100%. We have been together for 17 years as a couple, married for 13, and he has supported me every step of this way. He's never like doubted me, even when I've doubted myself and been like, I give up. This is it. I'm never trying this again. I suck at this. He's always been the one to just give me some time to like, be in those feelings, but then he's always there to help pick me back up and ask me, do you really want to give this up? And then I'm like, no, I don't really want to. He's like, what do you need from me to help you? And sometimes that answer would be, I just need a hug. Sometimes that answer was, I need 2 hours uninterrupted. Can you take the kids? And he would do that. So, plus more. I mean, we just went on this cruise together and he was the best assistant. He's literally right here laughing. He's trying to unpack while I'm chatting with you, Emily. So if you've heard a little bit of, pittering around, it's just him. Um, but he was the best assistant. He kept me on top of everything, made sure that I was hydrated and fed and rested.
The most important things to
All the important
reading.
things because I wouldn't take care of myself, and he knows this. He knows that I'll just, yeah, even with work, because I do have a full-time job as well.
Mm.
Um, but he'll check in on me throughout the day, and he'll be like, "Did you have breakfast yet?" And I'm like, "It's 11 o'clock." No, he's like, "You need to eat something." How much water have you had? I'm like, nothing. I'm parched. I'm literally mummifying as we speak. He's like, so yeah, he's been my biggest supporter, not just like maintaining my general wellness and well-being, but my writing as well. He's always supported me, and yeah, he's never not supported that. That's not my reality, and I'm super grateful for that.
You definitely need the people closest to you to support you, especially if you
Uh,
have kids.
Especially that, yes, now our children are 10 and 13, so they don't need me nearly as much. But yeah, I mean, there's always each age is fun. That from
Yeah,
my experience, each age is fun.